So hopefully we'll be able to roll that out all over the world.
40 weeks for men. 40 weeks for men. 40 weeks for men.
Right. Welcome to week 39 of development of the baby, of gestation. So we're going to talk about week 39 now. I'm talking to a globe today because I'm aware that there is a global perspective when we think about having babies. It doesn't just happen in my neck of the woods, but it happens all over the world. So today I'm talking to a globe to remind me of that. So we're going to educate, witness my experience, talk about society at large, and call listeners to action at the end. So let's start off with the education section. So let's learn together. So there's a couple of things, there's so many things happening there, but at week 39 of development of the baby, or the fetus, so there's a couple of things that I want to highlight. Number one, a few weeks ago we talked about the skin and how the skin actually is transparent. So a few weeks ago we were like, yeah, the skin is actually see-through. And obviously this episode we're thinking about looking and seeing, and actually if we look at the skin now with the different techniques that we have to do that, we can see actually that the skin is actually becoming more opaque, more solid, more difficult to see through. And this skin, when it gets more sort of opaque and solid, it's better at looking after or protecting the internal organs that are forming in there. So many internal organs, man. The heart, the lungs, the spleen, the pancreas, and the gut, the brain. There's so many internal organs. So yeah, the skin is getting better at protecting those as it becomes more solid and less transparent. Another thing that I wanted to highlight, you know how before we were talking about this coating that's happening around the baby, it's called vernix. So in Latin, that's actually varnish, but it's a creamy substance that's covering the surface of the baby. It's pretty much almost gone now. So it does help with sort of temperature control, and it helps with going through the birth canal if it's gonna get born that way. But this creamy substance called vernix is pretty much gone now. And actually when the baby gets born, most of the time it's born without vernix. Might have little patches at this point, but at week 39 it's almost gone. So the other thing that I wanted to highlight is we're thinking about ultrasound scans. So ultrasound scans are a good way for us to look and see what's happening to the baby. So obviously we're week 13 and we're thinking about looking at the moment. So in this day and age, in 2025, the time we're recording, we use ultrasound scans. And actually the World Health Organization, so the health organization that provides recommendations all over the world, recommended back in 2016 that usually pregnant ladies should at least have one ultrasound scan before week 24 of gestation. So even though we try and recommend that, it's important to remember that different countries have different infrastructure, different settings. So low resource settings may find it more difficult to have the capacity to do the ultrasound scan. But it is recommended, and it's a helpful way to work out whether or not there are big anomalies that you need to be aware of, whether or not there are 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 or more babies in there than just one. So it can be helpful to have an ultrasound scan. Maybe later on there might be a different way of looking at the baby, but for now we use ultrasound scan similar to submarines in the ocean. Alright, now it's time to witness my experience. So thinking about my own experience, so obviously I'm a UK resident. So I was born and raised in London, UK. But yeah, I live in England now. And in England, there's quite a good antenatal care system. So antenatal care is just before the baby is born. So usually in the UK at the time of recording, we're encouraged to engage in antenatal care. So for my 3 babies, we had scans for each of them. So we usually have one between 10 to 12 weeks of gestation and one between 19 to 21 weeks of gestation. Yeah, I had scans, so that was helpful for us to look and see inside what's happening and actually be more aware of having 1 baby or 2 babies or 3 babies at the same time. But we were only having 1 at a time, thank God for that. But yeah, it was helpful for us, especially in my experience. It was helpful for us to be able to realize that we were only having 1 baby, so we can plan appropriately. So ultrasound scans, I think, are a good thing to utilize, a good tool to utilize. Hopefully we can roll it out to everyone all over the world. I know different contexts are different, but they can be a really helpful tool. Now it's time to talk about society at large. So around here we go back to the Bible, God's word. So I'm going to read here from the English Standard Version using my device here. And I think a good verse to read is Matthew chapter 9, verse 36. When he saw the crowds, he had compassion on them, because they were harassed and helpless, like sheep without a shepherd. Yeah. So, I think this is a wonderful thing to remind ourselves of. Sometimes it's really important to turn and see what's going on around us. So, I'll give the context to this. So, Matthew chapter 9, Jesus' public ministry is taking off. He's doing loads of things, and he's actually in his own city at the beginning of it. And obviously we're thinking about looking all around the world, but he's in his own city at the moment, and his ministry is taking off, and he's taking time to look at people around him and turn and see. Now, obviously, we're in week 39, so we spent so much time, week 39 of gestation, we spent so much time look at the intricacies of the baby forming in the womb, in mommy's tummy. And actually, that's been helpful for us to think about how we can self-reflect and become more emotionally intelligent and actually think about our emotional quotients. And that's been a good thing. But actually, there's something about looking outside of ourselves and actually taking time to look outside, taking time to have a bit of a global perspective and actually see that nowhere in the world is the same. But it's really important to look around us and have compassion, just as Jesus is exemplifying in Matthew chapter 9. Looking at the crowd, he had compassion because they were harassed and helpless. And like sheep without a shepherd, he uses that metaphor there. And I think it's really important for us sometimes to take time to not get so focused on our own lives, but look outwards. And actually, it's even more poignant because we spend so much time, especially when our partners are pregnant, we spend so much time looking at our situation. And we can sometimes get so focused on our situation that we forget there's a big world out there. Obviously, this is just a representation, but there is a big world out there. And yeah, I think I'm encouraged by Matthew 9:36. I hope you are too. And go ahead and read the whole chapter and get the context. And hopefully we can learn from this parallel here together. Now it's time for the call to action for the listeners. So the call to action this week or this time is take a moment and take a look outside. So like I said in the Talk About Society section, we're in week 39 now, and we spent so much time really looking internally, and that's okay. But there's something about taking a couple of seconds and looking outside. It might be raining, it might be sunny, it might be snowing, it might be windy. I don't know what it's gonna be like for you. In my context right now, it's spring day. It's quite nice, quite sunny. But you know, I know it's different for each person. But I encourage listeners, take a look outside for a second. Take a look outside for a second and realize that life is so much bigger than just your situation. Take a look. We will take time, turn, and see.